This is RPMMORadio,
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
a podcast all about role-playing and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Sibh'Bae, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Greetings and welcome, role players. This is RPMMORadio, episode 39, Time Dilation. How's it going, everybody? I am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and of course, with me are three of the other four, Jazz, Sib, and Sibh'Bae. Kishmas is unfortunately not here at the moment because he is shooting excitedly his first porn.
Let's go, folks.
It is also unconfirmed, but that's just what I like to think. It's
No.
No?
No.
But gingers, that's popular online, isn't it?
How do you know he's a ginger?
I don't know, I just assume.
Oh my god. Because he hangs out with us.
I thought I saw a picture of the back of his head once. He's mysterious like Batman. You only get glimpses of him. J. Jonah Jameson is actually paying $10,000 for the first frontal photo of Kishmas. It's crazy. But welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining us live every Saturday at 7 Central Time at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. And, of course, you can join us live yourself if you got something you want to add or say or, I don't know, whoopee cushion noises or something. If you go to RPMMORadio.com, exactly, /Discord, just join our Discord channel. You can... jump into the caller waiting room. Even if you don't want to do it while we're doing the show live, you can still join that and just talk to us throughout the week because that's a thing that happens. Alice,
If
I'm looking at you.
You want it to.
So appreciate everybody that is here with us. And of course, you can also do it as a podcast, iTunes, Android podcast apps. There's various ones. Take your pick. Spotify, if you want to stream it because you're legit to quit. Podbean and blah, 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 blah. You get that. Also, a special thanks to our Patreon donors, all of you, and especially those on a raid boss level, that guy Laza and a Truth Bob. If you don't know their names by now, this is probably your first time listening. Because they're always there. Because
they always get the Sibby clap.
They're the greatest. That did not sound like a clap. That sounded very
wrong.
bad. Yeah.
Very wrong.
That's something that sounds like something that happens when somebody's mic is left on in a dark room and
oh my gosh!
And there's nobody home.
So dirty.
I wasn't gonna say it, man.
I am so blushing now.
Even
done.
Sibh'Bae the Pure heard it, and that tells you
I
something.
did.
Yeah.
I was like, that's dubious clap.
That's a dubious clapping.
What are you two doing? Yeah.
That is. I like the term.
I'm walking away.
I like the term dubious clapping as a reference to yanking the gherkin. That's awesome. I also want to thank two new followers, Triple X, Trash Lord, Triple X, and Killaxis. It's a series of alphabet letters arranged in a form that I am unable to pronounce with the human tongue.
Okay.
I can only assume Argonian or Ixar. So,
Ixar, maybe, yeah.
Ixar.
Mixed with leet speak.
Mixed with leet speak, that's right. So, appreciate everybody. It's awesome that you're here. Time Dilation, if you don't know what that is, watch several episodes of Stargate SG-1. You'll figure it out pretty quick. It happens a lot in that show, which is directly where that comes from. But it also means other things in roleplay, which we will be getting to shortly, but only after. Do we want to do what we're going in RP first here? Is that what we should do?
I would assume so, yeah.
If I mean that's the way of the show. Let's see. Hold on. I've got a little. Let's see. I gotta figure out. Hold on. Okay, yeah. It says Jazz goes first. Look at that. Jazz, what have you been doing in roleplay?
Oh my. Okay, well.
I roll for everything in real life now. That's my new
yeah.
thing. It is.
I don't believe you.
Good to meet you.
Okay.
I hope you... Ooh, die in a fire. That was a 3. You rolled badly on that one. That was not good.
Can I continue now?
You may.
Are you done? Oh, good. Okay. So...
What? Nothing. Just go on.
Okay. Let's see. Tuesday we didn't have poetry night. Monday was nothing. I leveled with my husband in our little tunes, but that was it.
Your little
And-
baby foods.
Yes, the baby toy. On Wednesday, I didn't even get into game because I was so damn tired from my day. So Thursday, I had role play with the guild, but not many people showed up. But it was still a lot of fun. And Friday, I did the Telvani RP, which went really well, although it was pretty casual. And then I went and role played on Sial and Riften, and also did a role play with Kishmas and the
I heard
Temple
about something
folks.
with a Kishmas.
Yes, I had Sial deliver something from Sully to Kishmas, an artifact that she had found. And since she doesn't really know anybody like him but him, she decided to just send it to him because she figured maybe it would do some good favor and he might not arrest her later.
There's no
She's like,
guarantee.
yeah, she's like, yeah, please don't harass me. Here you go. All my friends are crazy, so please
I'm
don't
being
harass me.
repressed. I'm being repressed.
So that was fun because Sial would really rather stab Dunmer than deliver anything to them. So she did her job and then she skedoodled out of there. It was rather funny since he didn't like her and she didn't like him. It was rather amusing. And then I logged out. So that was my week.
Doesn't sound like it sounds like you missed out on a lot of stuff, huh? Just one of those weeks where everything's just like, nah.
Yeah, nothing, everything was just kind of dead, and I made RP where I could, but although last Sunday, I did have some RP with Kishmas and folks there, which was kind of fun. Chavahuchi logged in on his tune, and he came to the tea house thing and picked a fight with Kishmas's tune. So, but it was funny. It was
Right.
funny though, because he was just being his smart ass self, and Kishmas was kind of being this very dark smart ass, and they kind of hit it off in a weird way.
Mhm. Like a rivalry kind of.
Yeah, and see, and you know, he's friends with Sully, sort of. She's friends. He has an alt that is his twin brother, this character's twin brother, and she doesn't like this brother. She likes the other one, and they're friends. So she's stuck with the twin on occasion, and he's always very aggressive and embarrassing. So she's praying that she didn't get stabbed along with him while he was picking this fight with what's his name?
Roger.
Roger.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
Roger.
I was trying to think of his name. I couldn't think of it. With Roger.
Very
So it was very
French.
funny.
Very French.
Yes, she was just kind of going, please don't stab him and don't stab me, please. I don't even like him, please.
Yeah. He's not
So-
worth it.
So it was funny and kind of fun because I really enjoy Kishmas's RP a great deal. He's very intense as a character.
Yeah, he
And
is.
you need more characters like that. They don't, and because most people that play those kinds of characters tend to mix. And
Yeah.
so you don't get a lot of these
Yeah.
intense characters that aren't a problem. So it's really nice to
he
bump
is
into
so good at
somebody.
it.
Yeah, that he plays this very dark character. And even Chavahuchi's character, even Chavahuchi OOC was like, this guy's cool. And it was
Mhm.
nice. It's so relaxing to RP with someone like, isn't mixing. It's just the character.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, and he's definitely he's a good spoiler to the kind of the less serious characters,
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely kind of like, because he can do that stuff too. I've seen, but it's always only among people he already knows. It's never out in public and stuff like that.
Right.
That's what's always so great about that. So when Sirius bumps into kind of like, hey, how's it going? Bubbly. It's
Yeah.
It's always entertaining to see like two serious and not serious personalities collide.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic fun to watch. Although Sully did not have fun, I certainly did. Sully wanted to be anywhere
but here. Yeah.
Yeah, she was just like, how can I leave and not look bad? Let's see.
No,
so it was a great deal
really
of fun.
good at
playing
a hard ass and keeping it in character.
Yes.
Which is so delightful and so rare. It is always nice. So that was my deal.
That's your.
He reminds me of Strafe's character Rin, but not in an evil way.
Quite
without
so much
evil.
darkness and plotting and stabbing babies in the face. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unless they're Enwa babies, then absolutely.
Guess I'll take that as a compliment.
It's meant to be.
It is a
because you are awesome. So yes.
Because how when you would play Rengots and somebody didn't like you, how you would then throw it a fit out of character or pretend to leave the guild and then beg to come back. You know how that always happened?
Like never?
Exactly. He's just like that.
Gotcha.
Like never, because that does not
happen.
So what are you at, Strafe?
Dude, I was working 9-10 hour days all week.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed you were like, where's Strafe been?
I was pretty checked out.
Yeah,
got a little RP Friday night.
Understandable.
Hanging out with Sibby's character, and did the whole bully chatting up Trath, sharing stories about the past, and it was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. I enjoyed it. Very laid
Opening
back.
up.
Until
Cave showed up and tried to
until Caves came over and tried to pick a fight with her.
Tried to play dirty chaperone because he was accusing of everybody of everything and anything.
The part where the little crab was singing "Kiss the Girl" was a little off-putting at first, but it cools on you after a while. Come on, Mom.
Sebastian.
You give them an inch, and they swim all over you.
Pretty much.
But all right, Sibster.
Let's see. I have had a lot going on in the servants guild. I am working towards my mastery to become a full ordinator, and it's me and 2 other characters, Malel and Tervis, and it's been so much fun. We had some drama last Sunday because that's when it started, and we're ridding Mournhold. Apparently, vampires have kind of got a nest going on in Mournhold.
Vampire.
Yeah, a master vampire.
I forget what I know in Witcher they call them high vampires, the ones that look human and are able to be all like.
This one's a master vampire,
yeah, I
and
think
so
that's what they call them.
Kind of got a nest built up, and so we were supposed to aid in just getting rid of, because they thought it was just a small group of vampires.
Like baby vampires.
Yeah, baby vampires. But anyway, the ordinator we were supposed to assist to get our mastery completed, we found her, and she was in the middle of fighting vampires and fiends down at the entrance of the sewers. And we went in and we kicked ass and defeated the vampires and fiends, but she had been bit and it was already too late. So Malel, he had to actually kill her, and it was very sad. And so his character and my character, we were kind of arguing because he felt like we needed to stay down there and protect, the city. And my character was like, no, we need to go report back to the High Ordinator and get further instructions, because the Ordinator that got killed, she had told us, it's a fool's errand to stay down there and try to fight a master vampire by ourselves, that we needed a lot more, backup. So anyway, so we kind of got into it, my character and his character. I mean, we were actually, my character said, I'm leaving. She said, you can stay down here and die. I don't care at this point, but I'm leaving. And it was so much fun. It was good drama, because
good drama is always fun. Yes.
Yeah. And when we got done, Malel, the person who plays Malel, actually sent me a tell and said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. And I said, don't apologize. I said, that was a blast. I said, I love you to death. I'm not mad at all. I had so much fun. And I said that you have to play your character how you want to play your character. Don't play your character to appease my character. And so it was a lot of fun just kind of going through that. And let's see, Tuesday, I think I hung around and did Guild RP with the servants. I've kind of got me and Tervis, the other one that's going through the mastery with my character. We've kind of got something going on. He approached me about relationship RP, and it's totally brand new to me. So I'm kind of like way out of my skill level here. But it's been a lot of fun because we're kind of evolving that. And I've had a lot of good RP this week. It's been a lot of fun. The stuff with Faye last night, I just really enjoyed. It's just been kind of rolling along. Of course, I have been off for the last 3 days, so
That helps.
I've actually been able to get in there and do a lot of RP. I've been staying up to like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, crap. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that's
I
bad.
know.
It's
Especially
hard
her.
not to do it.
Her who's
RP
usually
is
crashed
great.
out at between 9 and 10. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's my bedtime. Is like 10:30 is the latest. But I've been staying up. I think I finally left last night about 1:30.
Somewhere around there is when we hit the sack, yeah.
It's like, I gotta go to bed. I'm so tired.
I can't even see straight anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had insomnia all week, so I wasn't
Oh.
doing anything fun, but I also wasn't sleeping. So
So yeah,
Something.
I gotta have my sleep, but the RP this week has been a lot of fun. It's
That's
been,
how
Well, I'm
you keep
jealous.
yourself
Good job.
purty.
yeah. So I did get writing done. I think I wrote 3 journals
Yeah,
Ooh,
you
I'll have
did.
to go
for
read.
they're in the servants. I haven't got them posted
Oh,
on Alana yet, but
okay,
I'll post them
okay.
over there. But yeah, I've got a lot of writing done, so I was really happy about that too.
Mhm.
So that's mine in a nutshell.
Yes. Let's see. For me, it was a lot of the same because of course we were there at the same time. I forget what we did. I forget what we did on ordination training on Monday now.
We weren't there.
That's
Was
why I don't remember.
we've
You're
had
not old
computer
or anything.
issues this week.
No, that wasn't
No,
on Monday
that-
though.
It was on Monday.
Oh, that was your issues. That's right.
Yeah.
So there's the thing we've had. We've had a fun fucking week of the exact same problem on both of our computers failing at the exact
Mhm.
same week.
That
The,
sucks.
Yes.
For those that don't know that if you water cooled systems are kind of the new thing now, you can get them for fairly cheap at 60-70 bucks, and they work fantastic when they're working. It keeps your
The
CPU
key
at
is when they're working.
a good
Yeah,
40
I was gonna
degrees.
say that.
Yeah. Now there's 2 parts to these apparently. There's the 120 millimeter fan, which everybody's familiar with. That's the big, it's the fan that blows. We've had those in PCs forever.
Yeah.
And I noticed on hers that was what went out, and then that's also what went out on mine. And at the exact same time, because with her computer, she was getting lag issues. Like she was getting like 1 to 5 frames a second in game, and her CPU was going up in the 90 Celsius.
Oh
And
God,
now-
don't tell me that.
Right. And now
It was so frustrating because I kept telling him something's wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot walk. My character can't walk without being
so I installed a
jerky.
thing to check the temperature while the game, without needing the BIOS. I was like, oh yeah, look at that. And then I peeked at the back and it's like, oh, yep, there's your problem. Your fan's not moving. That wasn't the only problem. The other problem was that as I've learned in these new systems, there's 2 parts to these things. There's that little fan that blows through the basically the radiator, and there's a little extra thing that sits on top of the CPU that is basically a water pump, which is
Yep.
just another component that can go out. Because when it's
Yep.
not pumping water, it doesn't do anything. It just sits there. Because gravity is not your friend. So that is literally on both our computers, that water pump went out. The big fan went out, and then the water pump went out on both our computers.
Wow, did you get them from the same place?
Nope. 2 totally. Hers was a Corsair, and mine was, I don't know, some like PC Blaster Master something or other
Really?
thing. Two totally different.
That's bizarre.
Right? Yeah. So I went with the Corsair because they are actually more solid and they're better built.
They are.
And that was a fun exchange with the big fat guy in a white shirt at the local computer place, which had great price on RAM. But when I went back there to get like this, we went to Best Buy, shout out to Kishmas, to get Sib's thing, which was about $70 for the Corsair H60, which is the water cool system. So we went to this, trying to support your local community. Blah, 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 blah. So I asked the guy first how much just out of curiosity, what they charge for CPUs and like 1070 graphics cards. And these prices were average. So then I was like, all right, well, we need this. Well, he's like, well, we don't have the H60. We have the H55, which is 5 less than 60 for those that don't know, because it's older. So we go to the register and he's like, that'll be $99.84. And I was like, what, $99.84? He's like, yeah, $89.99 plus tax.
He got very rude.
Very rude. And I was like, huh, well, never mind then. He's like, well, what, didn't you want it? I said, no, Best Buy has it for 70. So I'm going to go save myself $20. Thank you. He didn't like that. Yeah. I wouldn't have been rude if he hadn't been rude first. So let that be a lesson to you. Don't be an asshole and treat someone like a moron if you work in computers. You never know who actually knows what they're talking about, because now they can't erase that shitty review I gave them, and I'm never going back there again. So
yeah, and I've paid $5, $10, $15 more for a smaller business because I know they can't always get better prices.
Right.
But you get over that, you need to be examining why you're so much more expensive.
Yeah, it was literally $30 more than I paid at Best Buy.
And it was a newer
Best Buy's
version.
not supposed to have the better deal.
No, they're not.
I would have got it online for even cheaper than Best Buy, but I needed it now because this happened on Thursday.
Yeah, right.
And I wouldn't have there wasn't a good chance I would have got it in by today and gotten everything taken care of. So for the show, I had to go locally.
When I was down in Arkansas last year, 2 years ago, the computer I take with me on trips and stuff is obviously not my main system.
Right.
And it started having problems, and I realized that my hard drive had failed. And so I'm, 10 hours away from home, and I didn't really know what to do. So I called around, and I went to Best Buy. I went to a couple other places. None of them had it. And they're like, oh, you can't do that yourself because it's a notebook. I'm like, the hell I can't. It's called a screwdriver.
Yeah, it's not hard.
It's not hard. I looked up online how to take it apart for my specific one.
I hate to be a troll, but aren't we talking about what happened in Roleplay this week?
But we're off on topic. This is what I was doing because I wasn't role-playing.
Fair enough. You get a pass on that.
That's right.
Sorry, Jazz. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Let's see what we have. What? Oh, yeah, we still have news stories to go to.
Yeah, and I didn't actually get into what I did do. But,
no, you didn't.
But the moral of the story is don't be a dick to people like that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a small local business, because I've seen the other reviews you had at your business. You couldn't afford it.
Ouch.
And it was sad because, he didn't realize Ashen knew.
Well, I wasn't being rude. I was just like...
He just took mine apart and fixed it, and then, he got the part for his and fixed his, and they run wonderful now.
Yeah, runs just fine.
But
it's just...
when I can see that they're being rude, I was like, holy crap, he was so rude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, so that will be... The fact that we got RAM for them for a good price was instantly negated by the fact that just asking how much a CPU and a graphics processor, a graphics card cost, you treated me like, oh, well, I don't have that in, but this here is like, we have that for 3 something and this here is for 4 something. I'm like, okay, well, that's basically comparable to what I can get online, but it's close enough. So that's cool. And then the cheapest thing and that was the thing. I could get the better, more modern unit for $30 less over your store. So, and
I took us back down that road again.
No, I was, but that's...
The salesperson would have been like, well, let me take off X amount would
Right.
that help?
Well, and see,
that would have won you.
The sad part is, I think this was the owner.
That's the sad part right
That's
there.
the sad
Yeah.
part. So because of that, that's why I knew I really thought I was having a stroke. Like, why can't I remember what we did for ordination
'cause
training on Monday? But yeah,
We couldn't be there. We couldn't be there Wednesday or what, Thursday night?
Thursday
Yeah.
we missed a thing, but I did have a lot of decent role play because of it wasn't anything event oriented, but like a character that Tarvala's buddy Co, he's been down and depressed, and everyone's kind of been worried about him. So that kind of came to everyone's attention. We had a commander, an officer, kind of step down too, and that kind of shook things up a little bit and created a lot of character conversations and things, and trying to figure out how everyone would rearrange and things like that. And Tarvala got to talk with Dravis, who that guy Laza, and
Jarvis is not that guy, Liza.
not guy Laza. What's the other one? The Truth Bob. He's got guys confused after a while. Sorry, Astaire is that guy Laza.
Yeah.
Boop 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 boop. But so and she was going over why she thinks he'll do well at it, but she was trying to just talk about why she feels like she's constantly being overlooked because she's been doing the same thing for so long, and it's not a challenge to her as much as it used to be, and she likes to be challenged always. Combat's all well and good, but she wants to do as much as she can for her people and blah 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 blah. The whole patriotic thing. But so that was a lot of fun. I got to sit down with a couple people, and they just kind of saw. It wasn't anything. There was no dramatic. It was basically a bunch of people sitting around a campfire. I mean, it was a brazier, but still.
Sometimes that's good RP though.
Yeah, and it was a
Go
lot
out,
of fun.
hang out.
Just the one-on-one conversations, talking about their family and how things are going, and sharing concerns for one another and what they're hoping to do, and who's getting promoted to what, and this and that kind of just one-on-one social aspect without somebody coming in with their eye bleeding or their gums falling out or anything dramatic. Just nice, kind of quiet. And I've always personally loved that kind of role play. I mean, I love the combat and fighting stuff as well, but that one-on-one social aspect is one of those things that I've always enjoyed in various role play circumstances whenever you can get the opportunity, and the more people, the often the better it can be. So that was our week, which was fun.
Which neither one of us mentioned that our characters actually sit down and
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Tarvala and Knife
It wasn't
actually sit down
memorable.
and have a conversation. It wasn't memorable. No.
No, we were so busy. This is why I need to write this shit down, because it happens 5 or 7 days for me is basically an eternity. I just completely forget like everything I've done.
He's like a little old man
I am. Yeah.
with short-term memory.
I love you too, Meredith. That's your name, right? Yeah.
I'm married.
Session Farms remembers.
That's right. Back in my day, we wore onion on our belt because that was the fashion at the time. And old Ike, you know him, he was the president. I like Ike. He also started that trend. That's actually how that happened.
Onion on your belt. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
It kept the reverse vampires away. Nothing? Anybody?
Reverse vampires.
Yeah, the ones that can only come out at night or only come out during the day and have to be back in their crypt at night.
They only come out at night. Okay, I'm okay now.
No.
All right, Harlan and Oates.
Oats.
And we've lost him. Yeah.
Sorry, you ever had those steel cut oats? Oh, that's some good stuff right there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I do like those. I miss them. That's one of the many things I miss.
Right.
Thank
you
you
can't have
for
grains.
Yeah.
What was
Thanks
that
for
that fell
reminding
in
me.
there? Have to. Oh, okay. All right. So that's pretty much all we have. So before we go ahead and get into our main topic, we'll go ahead and do a word from our sponsor. Looking for a rugged yet stylish timepiece that can not only tell time of where ye are, but when ye are? Nothing but the finest in dwarven engineering goes into every single one of our watches. Made with the tiniest of halfling child labor hands to make sure every single piece is crafted to perfection. What do dwarves know about time? I can hear you asking yourself. Well, dwarves have a long and storied history of time travel, jumping back and forth, and it's through this that we've come to realize the importance of a good watch on your wrist. Don't just fancy a wristwatch? Try our new line of pocket watches for the discerning gentleman. Every one of our timepieces is guaranteed for 100,000 years of travel. And if you happen to meet one of our founders in your travels, Fidget, Strutter, Og, Wally, or Vermin, you'll get 10% off your next order. Don't mind the silly accents, though. We eventually evolved beyond them. That's a little different. Very vague. Very, very vague.
One wonders where you can buy such a watch.
What they do? It's not a very well-written advertisement, but I guess, though, if you've got time travel, do you really need it to be? Huh.
Yes.
I mean, time traveling door. There was that documentary back in the day called Time Bandits that had a series of time traveling dwarves, and I think that must have been the company they came up with after the fact. And
As long as I can have a clock alarm that says "Great Scott," we're good.
great Scott. That's right.
This is heavy action.
All right. So our main topic here, time dilation. And why is that important to RP versus the MMO time? Jez, you want to go into what we mean by time dilation?
Well, most games do not run on the same time as real time. And so when you're role-playing, time is either passing faster or in some cases slower than what it's actually passing in game. And this causes the, I don't know, I think confusion is probably a stronger word than it really is, but it can cause you to feel that, you know, you're sitting there, you're drinking tea and it's night and it's day and it's night and it's day, and you really have only been sitting there roleplay-wise for a couple of hours, but yet you just watched.
Yeah, you watched the day-night cycle just like...
Yeah, you know, you're sitting there and suddenly, you know, it's night and then it's day and you're like, wow, I've been here a long time. When in reality, you were just sitting for an hour. So it's important to have some kind of idea, at least for me, how much time is passing. And while I've always role-played one-on-one for days in the sense of when it's happening, once time starts passing, then I do 4-to-1 myself, which means for every day that passes in real life, that's 4 days in roleplay time. So just because it's easy for me to do it in my head, I really don't have any reason. People are like, that's awesome. Why do you know, who told you about that? No, really, it's because I multiply by 4s really easily. Really, nothing else beyond that.
Yeah, and now in the other part too, because there's actually two aspects to that. There's the actual time frame that the game the game itself lets time fly by. You know, the in-game year and date, blah blah blah. And then there's what there's the way, like you did, the way role players do it, because some of them, like, see, for me, I don't even do the 1x4 thing. It's for me, I just kind of go with the flow of it, really. Like how, like I do kind of day by day that just like you do. But when it comes to stuff that happened in the past, it can be, you know, it could, like 7 days ago, it was just a week ago, or if maybe a little bit more time has passed, or it just, I kind of go with the flow. I've always preferred a 1-to-1 ratio myself, but that's exactly why we have to do this, because then how do you consolidate the way I view it with the way Jazz does? Because neither one of us is wrong necessarily. Right. It's just a personal preference. And when you get into what Jazz, I think she's told the story before, but she's going to have to tell it again tonight because it's directly into this. When somebody decides that a week has gone by and it's 15 years later, then you run into a few problems because there's something you can't necessarily rectify, you know?
Right, because how are you supposed to justify your own role play passing time if they're going off of a completely different clock and didn't tell anyone?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess I'll just tell the story. My character was a midwife and would deliver babies for people. And she delivered the baby for this couple. And it was maybe a month later. I don't even think it was that long. She bumped into them and they were like, she had the same last name and introduced herself with the same last name as this couple that she had delivered the baby for. And my character was like, oh, tell these two people hi. And I assumed it was a sister. She goes, oh, that's my mom and dad. Blink, blink, blink. Because my character had just delivered the baby a month before.
Yeah.
And I was not playing that it was any, at the most I could have gone with it being like a year, but gee, 15 years, really?
Yeah, you can kind of, like, even the year is pushing it, but you can just kind of, like, not mention it. Like, okay.
Right.
But 15?
But 15 years, this person was dating.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And when I spoke to them, like, well, we just decided that's what we were going to do because I wanted to play the character. Well, there were 9 people involved with that role play.
And
maybe you could have given us a heads up.
Yeah, but because now we really can't go along with that.
Right. So I had to retcon it and say there's no way that Vaka delivered this baby because 15 years ago she was running around killing people for the Overlord and was not a midwife.
Or the reverse, that you and our entire guild would have had to have jumped 15 years in advance for 2 individuals over an entire guild, which, not to pull out the Captain Kirk, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few kind of a thing does come into play with that. And Yufei actually in the chat, she had a good one. She says, she was going to ask that the subject applies to me quite a bit as someone who played a character who was 15 and still 15 while babies were being born and then growing up within a week. She says, I get it.
Right.
People want to play family alts, but it was difficult to role play around. And that's exactly
how
the
do you
case.
justify that?
Yeah.
I mean, or like one of the girls that I played with for a long time, ladies, not girl, she's a full-grown woman. But her character didn't age. Over a 10-year period, she was still playing her as a 15-year-old.
Right. Not Yunfei, this is another person.
No, this is a different person. Not Yunfei.
The time has just a coincidence.
Right. But you made me remember it because this is a person that was still playing well, I guess she was like 18. But we're talking, it's been 10 years. Literally 10 years of time has passed and God knows.
Like the actual real world playing the game still.
Right. And we were saying the guild was 40 years old. So if it's been 40 years in game or even just 10.
And even if she flubbed on that and was like, it's not been that long.
And to her credit, she was like, oh, I guess that's true, isn't it? Well, how about I play her as, she goes, I'll play her as 25.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. And we just let it go at that point, and we just said that she knew Vaka when Vaka was younger, and it worked because we talked about it once I mentioned it. So not everybody's going to freak out about it, but it is important to have those conversations because somebody else's timeline, if it doesn't work, how are you supposed to jive that together?
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Yunfei, you did actually age, but you also weren't playing the entire, umpteen years. So her going from 15 to 17, 18, I think, or so when you actually left, that's doable. You can pass, you can play around that. The hard part for you then at that point was, while you're slowly aging from 15 to 17, little babies that she once held in her hand for the first time are like, I'm a full-grown assassin. And I'm 800 years old. And she's like, that was only that was 6 months ago. What the hell?
What happened?
I've seen baby to reproductive age in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. And when I played Guild Wars 2, this was a common thing. We had this lady, she had twins. And the next time that I saw the twins, not even a week later, they were toddlers. And a week after that, they were kids. And I was just like, it's not that hard to play a kid. Why don't you just let them be kids and, roll an alt that
Why won't somebody think of the children?
I was just boggled because that was another situation where one of my characters, I like playing midwives. A lot of my characters are midwives, probably because it doesn't bother me because I have 4 kids, so I don't mind.
Well, text text birth doesn't bother me either, but watching it on YouTube,
Yeah.
not that I have, just everybody that's been in the public education school, you know what video I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
It is not, as Jeff Foxworthy say, it is not a beautiful thing of nature. It looks more like a wet St. Bernard trying to come in through the cat door. It's awful.
Oh my God, what an
so
image.
bad.
What? Don't get mad at me. That's Jeff Foxworthy talking.
I'm not.
You know,
no.
I offered for my kids to watch their birth, but they
Don't
have so far
laugh.
turned
Don't
me
laugh.
down.
Yeah, geez, your kids are very, very smart, Jazz. Things
I was
I
like,
never...
we have videos if you want to watch. No. Okay.
Parts of my mother I never want to see for 1,000, Alex.
Well, at first Andrew was interested, and then I reminded him rather gently. I was like, you do understand that when you are born, I have no clothes on, and there are parts of me. I didn't even have to finish. Never
Like,
mind.
No.
Walks off. Out.
No. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to. We're gonna go into like maybe how the different ratios might work, but we looked up some statistics on the various kind of the more popular MMOs right now, and just to see I was curious because I knew in EQ 2 how quickly it passed, so I wanted to see the other games. Now in Star Wars Galaxies, they completely bitched out of this, and I know it was a complaint when the game came out because they have no day-night cycle.
Really?
No, every planet is perpetually the time it is when
No,
on
they
every
do.
single planet.
They have this music every
Oh.
time it goes night cycle.
Do they?
You have that same Star Wars song every time the dawn shows up. You hear that same. Yeah,
There-
it does.
In not Galaxies, sorry. You've been playing Galaxies. It's your fault. I
You
meant
would know.
the Old Republic.
Yes. Star
Yeah.
Wars
So
Tour. Yes.
I
it
meant the
does
Old
not
Republic.
have-
Oh, you meant Tor.
I meant
Gotcha.
Tor. Yeah,
no,
my
it
bad.
does
I
not.
did say Star Wars
they didn't
Galaxies.
show the day and night
Yeah.
cycle
I
at
was
all.
like,
Yeah, Star Wars Galaxies, a game that came out like a decade before SWTOR, it did have a day-night cycle on every single planet because it wasn't lazy. Now, SWTOR, however, from BioWare, every single planet was perpetually that day or night. It never
Yep.
changed. It doesn't matter when if you go to the Sith, the Sith homeworld, it is always dark and rainy. If you go to Korriban, it is always sunny and red. If you go to the Jedi planet, it is always green and daylight. It never, ever changes. So they completely bitched out and just, punked out on that one. One I didn't know of, and I don't know if anybody else knew this too, but World of Warcraft is actually on a 1-to-1 ratio. It's 24 hours in game is 24 hours in real life. From what this
I
is,
was
this is
shocked
what
to
I was
learn
based.
that. That
I
was
learned off
surprising.
of, which is kind of cool in its own way, but also I could see where people were complaining that if you only play at night, you literally only play in game perpetually at night.
Do you hear the song? I hear the song.
What song?
Jumps out at night.
Again, Harlan and Oates. What's going on?
Man, somebody's got their Pandora list going in the background or something.
No, it's just you keep saying that phrase, and that's what pops into my head.
Mind over
See,
matter.
And I don't even. It's funny. I'm usually good at that. I don't remember that song.
Go look it up.
I will. I probably know it, but it's not in my lexicon.
It's a man-eater song, bro.
It's called Man-Eater.
Oh, Man-Eater. Is that the She's a Man-Eater?
She's a Man-Eater.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I do know that song. Yeah, I just don't
Yes,
remember
you
that
do.
part.
Yeah.
Oh, is that part where he's like,
Yeah.
where you can't understand
Yeah.
what the fuck he's saying? Okay,
I
that's
can
why.
understand him.
Yeah, but I don't drop acid while I was listening to it like you did.
yeah.
I did not drop acid. I
Smoke
was
pot.
drunk a lot.
Oh, okay,
I didn't
whatever.
smoke pot. I was allergic. Surprise.
Of
surprise.
course you were allergic to
Of
pot.
course
Why
I was.
wouldn't you be allergic
I know,
to
right?
pot? That
But
is
I
a
drank a
shock
lot.
to nobody.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, this has been the Hall and Oates Hour. Thank you for having Hall and Oates. But no, the problem with World of Warcraft is if you only play, if you're only playing like 6 to 10 at night, it's always dark. It's kind of, it's neat in one way, but it also kind of sucks. I I actually think some of the other games have a better ratio. Like ESO, it has a 5 hours for daytime and 1.5 hours for night. So they're not even they're not even like a 50-50 ratio like most of them do.
No.
So you're on typically the majority of the time it's going to be daytime, but if it's night, you're only stuck there for an hour and a half, which that's not too bad. Then you start I think of all of these on here, I think that's probably the one I like the most. Like I'd like the World of Warcraft one if it was maybe like 1 to 2, like, for every 12 hours that goes by, an entire day goes by. That wouldn't be so bad.
Like that,
yeah. Or even
because then it would cycle.
Yeah, or even 1 to 3. That way it wouldn't be, that way it would always shift. That way if you're on 7 o'clock every time, eventually it would slowly be different times. Yeah. Lord of the Rings has, they're at an hour and 42 minutes for night or for day, and an hour and 23 minutes for night. So they're kind of 50-50.
50-50 almost.
So about 3 hours you go through an entire day cycle, which that's reasonable.
Really fast.
It's fast, but it's not compared to our first and second place winners. Second place of the crazy fastest time ever goes to EverQuest 2, literally 72 minutes per day. So if you're, like what Jazz was saying, when she said that you could sit down and you could have a cup of tea and you could watch the sunset, rise, set, and rise again, that was because less than an hour and a half had gone by of you sitting there. So by this standard, 8.5 hours in a day of like real time is literally 1 week in game time, which is why in EQ2 it was impossible. Nobody went by. Okay, I take that back. There were a few idiots.
There were people
went
who
by
did
the actual in-game time.
Oh yeah, they'd insist that that's how they were 10,000 years old.
Yeah, it's like,
well, that's how the girl was 25 or 50.
Oh yeah, seriously. That's
you and Faye, we'd all be dead in a month in EQ2. Bitch.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in 24 hours, you and Faye, an entire 20 days had gone by. So 2/3 of a month. So but there were people, and this was kind of what made me think of this too. When we put it on the list, Jazz is actually the one that picked this topic because it was on the list, but it's an interesting one because there are people that were like, no, they could be at a tavern event, and like literally, I guess by their standards, if an hour and a half, 72 minutes, which is less than an hour and a half, so they've been there all day.
Yep.
You've been drinking, you can't even have an introduction to to people sometimes if there's enough of them in 30 minutes just because of typing. It doesn't make any sense. It
doesn't.
Redunculous.
And we've all seen
there were always people like that. So it was really hard to deal with for that reason. It was easier. That's the thing I liked about Tor in the sense that because there was no night and day cycle, you could say it's been however long you wanted, which was nice because the time passed exactly the way that you wanted it to.
Yeah, if you were on a planet that's dark, you got there at dark and you left when it was still dark. Or if you're on a space station, it doesn't matter because you're in space.
Right.
Which it worked pretty well for that. It was still fucking lazy development-wise.
No, I agree.
But it actually worked well for roleplay, which only marginally helped counter all the other stuff they did that went completely against roleplay.
Which was absolutely horrible. Yeah.
What were you saying, Stray? Faye?
Oh, I'm saying we all seen the derp of people that just mystically and magically have given birth and are like literally their daughter's grown up and fighting with them in the next conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, basically that. I was going to say, or they're pregnant and they're out still fighting at all, which is another entirely different topic of stupidity.
That's an entirely different topic to pick the scab on.
But in the of the ones I looked up, the winner actually goes as fast as EQ2 was. The winner goes to Final Fantasy XIV by a whole 2 minutes because for them 70 minutes equals 1 day.
Yep.
So it's not a big deal, but they actually managed to out-derp EQ2. So good for you, Final Fantasy XIV. What that means basically, in the course of 18 days and 16 hours, if you go by Eorzean time, it takes 18 days and 16 hours of real life time for all of 1 year to pass in game. So if you're going by their patch cycles, which are every 3 to 4 months or more, that's literally years between patch cycles, which, from what I'm told, is what it also feels like. Especially the amount of content they've been pushing out lately. So yeah, that's a few different games. I think of all of those right now. I think ideally I would like the 1-to-3 ratio where I don't know what is I'm horrible at math. What, every 8 hours or so, something like that, 7 hours, an entire day passes, which is pretty close to what ESO has. They're at 6.5 hours, which that's pretty good. And because it's at a half, it always shifts. Like, so if I log in at 6 o'clock in the evening where I'm at every night, eventually it's not always going to be sunny or day or night out. It'll slowly shift back and forth.
We had that day-night cycle thing happen. Sibby's was hanging out at Trithalis' house. We're sitting there by the reflection pool just drinking mead and discussing various paths. And it started in the evening, and then it wore on all to the night. And by the morning, Case had shown up and was like, and I kind of joked and said, "Hey, you guys want eggs and bacon? What's going on?"
Yeah, because it's only which. So is that which do you prefer? Because that is I didn't realize that it was 5 hours for daytime and 1.5 hours for night. Do you prefer that, or would you prefer more like like I know even in real world it's not like there's only 2 days out of the year where it's exactly 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and that depends on where you are in the world. You may not even get that. I'm looking at you, Alaska.
I really prefer
in Australia
50-50 myself.
Yeah.
I like the night.
As long as it's on a like we were saying, like a 1/3 scale where it's not always the same thing every time you log in.
Right.
But if I had to pick of all of these, I think I like the ESO one best just because it's longer for a single day, because even Lord of the Rings at 3 hours, that's pretty short for a day. And for anybody that's role plays like we do and like a lot of the people we know, and that's 3 hours can go by pretty quick if you've got the time. Because
there's people who type really slow, and you're not going to have a lot of role play in that period of time, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so in real life it may be a lot of time, but in role play it's only been 15, 20 minutes, and it's been an hour.
Yeah.
While you waited for them to type. So,
or if it's multiple people and, or worse, not that anybody that plays Elder Scrolls would know this because it never happens every hour, but disconnects constantly happening.
Oh, yeah. That's
where you're stuck waiting for 10 minutes for the people for the half of the room that was role playing that just disappeared to come back.
That is a really annoying little thing
glitch.
That happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
They need to fix that. It's really
and
annoying.
It's always in places that have, where you're doing like group RP, like the Tea House or Riften.
Right. And I really think I've figured out what it is, because I think it has to do with bandwidth and the game. I really think that it's got something to do with that, because it only happens in places where there's a lot of people around. Mm-hmm. And it only happens at these in places where there's a lot of PvP.
Yeah, I think it actually goes back to the pre-1 Tamriel, where the zones were instances, where everything was instance, and excuse me, just burp right there. Where when before 1 Tamriel, like 6 people could get into a one room, and then it would cut you off, even out in the real world.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I wonder
that was annoying.
I sometimes wonder if when they did 1 Tamriel, if the architecture, when you get 20 characters in one instance like that, like at say the Kati's tea house thing in Vivek City,
right? It's stressing them out because they just can't handle it.
Kick these guys, and it freezes out, and that's its way of compensating.
And I do think it also has to do with your login server, because it does seem to happen in regions.
Yeah, because it's not everybody that gets kicked. It's just a random assortment of people. Yeah, it is a weird
swaths of places where people live.
It's weird.
Unless you're in the Riften bar, and then it empties the whole bar out periodically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
But it's every city. It's not just Riften.
Yeah, and that's the same. It's the same thing as same as the tea house. It's just everybody in one room gathered in a dense concentration. and just like
it trips some kind of bandwidth or something along those lines having to do with how many people it can handle in the instance
or
area.
It's just some weird bug that
or
they're
it's
not
trying
bothering
to
to
shift
fix.
the instance.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. There's no way they're not aware of it. That's the thing.
Oh, you know they are. There's no way they're not.
Yeah, they have to be aware.
I just don't think they know how to fix it easily without.
That's why I said I wonder if it's previous. I'm not a computer programmer or anything like that. I could just be completely talking out of my butthole right now, but it could just be the previous. Let me ask you a few questions. Hunta 90 said the issue with one-on-one, one-to-one ratio is time zones. When it's day for you, it's night for me because he's Australian. So I would have to constantly play late at night to be able to play during
and that's
day.
not
and
okay.
That's
why I think 1 to 2 would work out better.
Yeah, 1 to 2, 1 to 3. I agree with you, man, because the 1-to-1 ratio in WoW, when I was looking that up, I actually went through, when I saw that it was 1-to-1, I was like, well, part of me thinks it's kind of neat. The other part was like, I could see all these complaints of people like you down in Australia in playing with other people. It was always that's all they got to play in. It was either always day or always night, unless you were always able to play between, I guess, 4 and 10 o'clock. You could actually see it go from day to night, but then you're seeing it go to day to night every single day. So that's equally kind of shitty. But yeah, I personally I'm good on the 1 to 3 ratio because that cuts it down.
Yeah, maybe, 1 to 3, 1 to 4 would be great. Yeah,
maybe like a 1 or even a 1 to 1.5 might be something good, because then it's constantly shifting as just something to make it so it's not the same time in the game as it is in the real world every friggin' day. But also not something so fast that in 8.5 hours an entire week has gone by.
Totally.
So when you've got a marathon session of grinding and leveling or role-playing that you've not literally been doing that for an entire week, because that's ridiculous.
You said grinding. I was thinking of a different kind of grinding, but same problem.
Was that like my clapping that you guys so
that
made?
Around the
my naughty clap. It was an innocent clap, and
oh my god!
What?
Guaranteed to make Jazz go nuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They continue to go nuts.
I'm just enjoying it. Enjoying it.
It's the Joker working his magic.
Hold on, she's still not done. There you go.
We probably lost half of our audience. Thank you very much.
We lost at least 1/4 of the crew, that's for sure.
You're gonna make me pee. You have to stop.
Well, that is a Harley Quinn quote. That's hilarious.
Oh man.
Okay, I can breathe now.
That's my lot in life. If I can't make every person I know pee themselves at least once, I consider my life a failure.
Oh my god, that was so awful.
Strafe, you're next.
Run,
I wish you good luck, sir.
Run.
So all right, so
let's move on to the next.
Yeah, we have the when is a day? When is okay? I'm gonna let you read that one because I can't. Oh, day to day. Okay, I'll let you read.
Sorry,
it.
that's ratio shorthand. I apologize. I shouldn't assume that everyone knows what I mean.
Not a clue.
I suppose. Okay. Well, yeah, that is. When is day to day okay? When does it make a mess of things?
And how do you mean by that?
Well, I think we've already kind of covered that, really. Some people only go by day-to-day, 1-to-1 ratio, and it can make a mess of things if you are sitting in a tea house and, you have things to do today, ideally, and you're just there to have tea. Well, 3 or 4 hours later, you finally leave, but ideally, it's only been, an hour, maybe 2. But in game, it's been 3 days. And if you start role-playing like that, you'd only be able to spend 15 minutes, and some people can't even type a sentence in that period of time. So
Yeah, you can't even get, if there's a group of 5 of you, you can't even get through the introductions of a conversation in 15
Right.
minutes,
You just, yeah, exactly. And so I think in that sense, it's detrimental to assume that time is really passing that fast. And I've had several people that even role played within Silver Circle that were like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've been here for 3 days. I should go. No, you haven't. Stop that.
Yeah, it's like, no, yeah. And see, and for me, I tend to, I mean, and doing it on a complete 1-to-1 ratio, I would prefer that. I get that technically the amount of time we spend, like if we spend 3 hours at the tea house, the amount of time that, since we all type slower than we talk, I don't really worry too much about that. I consider it, it's 2 or 3 hours. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Time's usually, it's role play. It's not like in a movie where time is of the essence and, the counter that's clicking down to 5 seconds, if you don't do it kind of within, 5 to 6 seconds in the movie, it breaks the immersion of it. It's
Right.
more like, for my nerd anime fans out there, Dragon Ball Z, when Frieza, throws a fireball into Namek and says, "This planet will die in 5 minutes." And it proceeds to go on for 25 episodes at 22 minutes apiece.
30 episodes later.
30 episodes later, exactly. So, I can kind of be like, okay, well, I would prefer that over, that's
I would honestly prefer if the days were longer instead of shorter.
Yeah, yeah, not a 1-to-1 ratio like WoW, like we were saying, but still longer than, like, even ESO is only 6.5 hours per day.
Well, I mean, I would really like to see like a 40-hour day and then a 40-hour night and then switch back and forth.
And that's a thing that, hold on.
But if we're going to do it like faster, at least 12 hours or 15 hours or something, not this 6 hours and then it switches. It's really messes with my head.
Even 10 or 11 would be better than what
yeah,
we've gotten.
something.
But here's the thing that's, what you just said kind of made me think of this. These are all fantasy and otherworldly places. Why are they required to have a 24-hour time spinning period? Only one planet in our solar system does that, and that's because we based it on that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It has to do with how fast the planet is spinning. So,
how fast the planet is spinning?
The planet.
Y'all can kiss my
entire. Hey, what, man? That old planet, man. Dang old.
That dang old planet, man. He's right over here to go spin around and say Uranus.
I hate you too.
But no, how fast Mercury spins compared to, say, Saturn. How many years of our, years go by for a single rotation of Saturn or Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. And I would like to see, there's no reason in a fantasy world that it has to be 24 hours. And I actually don't, there's actually no reason why having a 6-hour day and a 1-hour night would necessarily mean that they celebrate night and day that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Technically, I suppose you sleep when you're tired in a society where the planet moves like that. Maybe they just sleep whenever. So I can
like
see
living
their
on Ryloth
argument.
in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you just sleep when you're tired. If the day and night cycle mean nothing, then you sleep when you're tired. You get up when you're not tired. Well, and maybe like, that's how their planet works.
Like the people in the north and the south of our globe, where it's, they have 3 months out of the year where it stays dark, and then there's another 3 months where like it literally never sets,
Right. And then they have day and night for a while, and then it goes back to that.
Right.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah. People can adjust, and fantasy species have also adjusted. That's why they are super short. Super ugly and hairy and short, super long-lived with pointy ears. Then there's just, the boring human people. Yeah, thank you. Jupiter's day is only actually 9 hours. I was thinking the rotation, not the rotation around the sun, not the not what
that's
it's.
season.
Listen to what I mean, not what I say. Alice in the chat. Actually, that is one day that for as big as that fucker is, he spins.
Yeah, he's spinning.
He's moving. But yeah, I was meaning the years. Not so much the rotation. You got just quit picking on me. You guys are mean. You know what I meant.
Wait.
Says you.
Yeah.
You guys are being mean to me.
His
I-
goal in
hey.
life is to make people pee their pants by
It is
laughing.
2018. I can be both the bully and the victim at the same time.
No.
That is how this works. Have you seen Facebook?
No.
He has a point.
He's not wrong. The cry bullies run
He is
rampant.
not wrong.
I'm a victim, you sons of bitches. But yes, thank you for, orbital period versus rotation. Yes, I know science.
Are you sure?
That's why I still think Pluto's a planet. Go fuck yourselves.
Actually, it is a planet now. Didn't they change it back?
Not that I've heard.
Dwarf planet still.
I will never let that go.
I agree.
Pluto's my homeboy. Both the Disney dog and the tiny planet. So one-to-one, day-to-day, man, that it really can. Luckily, there's not a lot of role players that they're very fringy when it comes to those people that play the actual in-game time.
You're fringy. Sorry. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I read it. I read it in USA.
Let me get you tissue. I'll give you tissue.
Actually, that made me. There we go. It's my nose.
Would you like a whammy burger with those curly cries, bro?
That's right.
Yeah.
Man.
There are now scientists arguing that it is indeed a planet and should be classified as a planet.
They were arguing that they were arguing that at the time, but the other idiot scientists that know it all,
right?
were
But
like,
now they're debating it again because it follows the rules of a planet. Thus, it must be a planet. So,
I still want to know about Planet X, where Marvin the Martian is always trying to blow up. It's out there.
Oh yeah,
believe in it. So this has been Planet Talk. Thank you for coming by. This is RPMMO Planet Talk Radio. Sorry, we're all nerds here. Come on, there's not a person out there. Look at that. We mentioned planets once, and Rahanar has given me the amount of days it takes every planet in our solar system minus
awesome.
Pluto, which is why that is fake news. That list is fake news. If without Pluto on there, fake news. But yeah, so they really are fringy. They're the kind of people that do that. They're the same kind of people that like, well, I only translate into the dark elf language because I'm a real true role player.
Oh my God, let's not even. I've dealt with people like that. They drive me insane.
Right.
Pay no attention to the fact that it's like a D&D language and they're playing it in EQ2. You know,
right. Exactly.
Yeah, it didn't even really exist. We were just using it for funsies.
Yeah.
In a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. But a dwarf planet. That's right. Pluto's the best dwarf planet of all dwarf planets, but it's still a bloody planet, isn't it? What's the second word in the name? Dwarf planet. That's right. Fucking dwarf hatred in the chat. Dwarves are forever. We can travel through time. What can you do? That's right. And nothing. Tell your mom I said hello for you.
Oh, heaven help us.
Hey, don't look at me. That's all Bargnar. He is a surly little dwarf.
That's been an episode of the SS Dwemer.
That's right. So when is it okay to dilate these things? You know, when is it kind of necessary, and how best is that it should be used and utilized? Like, Jazz, what you were saying, where you do your day-to-day as 1-to-1, and then after that you do 1-to-4, and like, even I don't do that. You've always kind of gone by that rule, but even I've never really subscribed to it.
I'll explain why. This is why. In roleplay, people have a sense that their roleplay is over a longer period of time, because roleplay, you log in, and in between there's this space. And that space between when you log in and when you leave can be however long. And so it feels like more is taking place in 1 year. I mean, let's be honest. These people, meet, get married, and have a baby and they do all of this stuff in a very concentrated period of time.
It can be like it's just in the period of like a one role play session. It's like a soap opera. You can go from grieving the loss of somebody to having a fight with somebody to having a drink with that same person, and then I don't know, fighting vampires. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, and it
all within
seems
like a 4-hour period.
It really feels like people like one of the things that always bugged me, for example, is when they've been married, they were happily ever after, they love their one true only, suddenly he's dead because whatever. And they're over it in a very short period of time. And as someone who has experienced great loss, you remember we had Vakarina got remarried right after her husband died.
He who shall not be named.
Rebound husband.
Yes. Well, no, because it was the law. Because according to the lore, that if she didn't replace her husband, she lost her space, her standing in the Dark Elf community. So it was important for her in order to maintain her power.
They don't mind that it was the Freeport Surface Dark Elf you're talking about.
Well, yes, but she lived according to and ran with Iceely.
All that's aside, I agree with you. I just have to troll you, and it was a rebound.
Oh, I know. It was a rebound. But her and what isn't known is that her and Xanis didn't do anything for a very long period because she was still in grieving.
Well, Sibby's called me a turd. Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
So, but that long time was only like what, 2 months,
give or take.
But we said it was much longer.
Well, and part of that too. Let's be honest. Part of that too was you needed to get your head back
away
on
from
straight.
that. Yes, I did. After what happened, So we didn't role play an actual relationship. They were still just friends for quite a while. I remember it was 6 months of real time or whatever.
He just supported her. He was friend zoned for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, because she had to get used to her husband being dead, and I had to get used to this person that was my friend who turned into a psychopath and started stalking me online, and I was really kind of in shock. Yeah. So I needed time, but
this jazz rant brought to you by Silver Circle for all your drama needs.
That's right.
Yeah, seriously. So, but I've noticed that is a trend actually amongst a lot of relationships. This person dies, and 2 weeks later, they're falling in love and getting married to someone else. 2 weeks. I mean, 2 weeks. These people have obviously never lost someone in their whole life. It takes a while. And it's just like, trust me, you're not, or like these people, this is the part that really makes me laugh. People who have a baby and then they've got their armor on and they're back out slaying monsters 2 days later.
Yeah.
And they insist.
Well, I believe we were talking about the same thing earlier. But
this person in Taiwan, they are out there, and they bleed to death and die in massive numbers. Don't quote
Yeah, now see, and that's where time dilation can help.
Yes.
Like, I just popped out a kid. Instead of taking weeks off to get back and fighting.
You say it's been weeks,
maybe
and that's fine.
Like 2 days pass, and you fudge. You can fudge a little. And most people will be like, okay, because just as role players, we understand that, I mean, nobody wants to sideline their character, which they already did by having the stupid kid, which is their own choice. And in some of them, that's one of those things I like about when we talked with Nathala from Servants, and Sibh'Bae is another one. And there's been a few of them there. And you, Jazz, when you did it, you were just like, I'm pregnant. There's the kid. It took you were pregnant for a few months, and
yes, because Dark Elves had to be pregnant for 2 years. So I had to.
And obviously you weren't going to do that because, I mean, really, as long as we were in the game, you never know if you're going to be in a game for 2 years, especially these days now. So a couple months goes by, blah, blah, blah. And people they'll fudge along with you. And that's what I've always called it, fudging. You just kind of rub, it's like a nice thick pencil line, and then you kind of just rub it with your finger until it's kind of a blurry, fudgy sort of like.
I didn't know where he was going with that for a minute. I was like, where is he going? You just kind of rub? I was like, this show has just been bad.
Yeah, Strafay knows. He does art stuff too. You just kind of rub it out. Yeah. What? Is that not a proper term? I'm serious. I just want to make Jazz have to get up and run off air because she's got to go change. That's all I'm really aiming for tonight. That's my one goal in life.
I totally need to go to the bathroom. I hate you so much.
Good
I
job,
had kids.
Mr. J.
I don't have a
Welcome
choice
to
in
my
this thing.
world. Welcome to my world, Jazz.
Mhm.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you.
Good job, Mr. J.
No problem.
Oh,
So,
yes,
but you
I'm
know,
back.
it's stuff like that. You can just kind of fudge
Right,
on
you
it. It's
fudge
not a
it
big
because
deal.
nobody wants to actually be
Right,
pregnant
and
for
nobody
a period of time. I get that.
Okay, and I say nobody. When I say nobody, I mean the vast majority of common sense people. Nobody wants
Well,
like
there
someone's
are some
character
people that-
to sideline a character like that constantly.
In like 10 years, they've spent most of their time RPing pregnant. There's a couple of people in EQ like that they literally are, they have like 15 kids.
Yeah.
No lie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things, but
I'm going to
I
get famous
know
and have my own
Of
TV
what
show.
you speak. I know all of what you speak, sadly.
well, I mean, a lot of people will have a baby and then that baby will be grown up and they have 15 of these instant children somewhere. But I'm talking about people that
And they
this
just
one
shove 'em
particular
into-
person in general who has like 15 kids with the same person, but she role plays it out and she's been role playing this for 10 years. But she literally is pregnant 90% of the time. I don't get it because I hated being pregnant. So, but it's her role play, but at least she doesn't make insta kids with it. She literally has a pack of children following her around, I see. And it's her thing.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess if that's what she's into, and she doesn't,
Yeah.
and you're not complaining that your character's sidelined for that. But like I said, when it comes to, it's the same thing with, to take it out of horrible baby roleplay, injuries, like really bad injuries.
Yeah.
There's a reason our characters heal so fast. And part of it's just because obviously having them get injured, it actually shows a consequence and it tells a good story. If every time you go into the vampire's lair and everyone comes out crystal clean and sparkling, it gets a little boring. So, having somebody raked across the chest or kicked across the room or whatever, or taking an arrow to the knee. Dun-dun-dun.
Well done.
To bring
Well,
back
in Silver Circle, we had our clinic RP was always the busiest RP in the house.
And part of that was, and that changes from, I've noticed that changes from guild to guild. Some of that is from the look at me people that think the only way to get attention is to constantly be injured, which also isn't good. Like you need to have a reason to do that, but like for like events and things like that. If there's a combat event, and obviously that's one thing. Some of those were like, I was just attacked by a troll off camera, and it gave me a hangnail. I got to be in bed for a week. Oh, come pity me. No, you know what?
Yeah, come visit me in my house.
If you're lucky, we'll come change your bedpan in 4 days.
But it's also a magical world, and in most games, you can get healed very quickly, and so the rest time is just added on as a don't be stupid for a week and let your insides actually physically heal.
Right. And that's and fudging on that, like, in Silver Circle when we do that, it, because they do fight against some pretty serious stuff, and people have, because they go by roles in the combat, they actually can get some pretty serious injuries, but it's the healing process, even with magic, is still sped up a little bit. It's dilated up because you don't want somebody character for outside
most of
reasons.
us don't want to be of us don't want to be sidelined for 2 months healing in a bed. It's
right
boring.
And then there's others that like there was something that happened to Kishmas's Roger. He lost his eye. I think he lost like an eye, like it was severely damaged, and now that taking a long time to heal slowly over time makes sense because that's a very delicate organ.
Yes.
So it made sense, and he was good with it. And, I think part of it, honestly, since he's not here to contradict me, he just wanted to wear the really cool eye patch for a week or two. I think that was really what it came down to. No, Travis is always injured.
Oh, no, well, I remember Travis having an eye patch on, but I don't remember Raj.
I think that might have been before you were around.
Oh, okay.
But then we also had people who wanted the time dilation, their time in prison. Because in Silver Circle, if you screwed up and you pissed off Ocarina bad enough, you got put into a prison cell.
Yeah, people didn't like that, but I
No.
literally left my tune there. I guess I'm a purist. Literally the whole time you were sentenced.
You're an elite purist.
Like Ren lost his legs because of that freaking deal with the Watcher. He morphed out of that Dragonid, and then literally they had to regrow his legs.
Yeah, and
he had to lay there for a whole month. Ren was in that freaking dungeon.
And something like that, I could see that taking some time. You know,
Yeah.
that's
It made sense. But we
Yeah,
had people that
there's
would end
various
up
states
in...
of injuries that you would want to speed through. You know, if somebody has a hangnail, obviously, you know, rub some dirt in it, get over it. But if you have to regrow, I don't know, 2 limbs.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Or like the person, my husband's character, after we had that big event and the guild hall was destroyed, the guild hall literally fell on top of his character.
Mhm.
We had to dig him out. He was in repair for a long time, and then he just work took a turn, and he ended up basically saying that his character was going to have to retire because the injuries were too severe. And
Yeah, and it was a good way out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So, all right. Well, we actually got a phone call here on our waiting line. So go ahead and without further ado, we got Smiling Sorcerer again. How's it going, Smiling?
Woo!
Hey, Smiley.
Hey guys, I just calming my heart down. I'm still not used to that drop, but
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's like riding
that
the
right there,
RPMMO roller coaster.
That's the rush.
No, right?
That's the
The
rush
only
of a
roller
live
coaster
radio.
I ride, by the way, because I'm hardcore.
That's right.
Yes, but I had a comment about what you guys were saying about role players who constantly injure themselves, but still like go out into the field and stuff.
Shoot.
I had a short role play experience with a in-character vampire one time in Rift, and apparently she was this vampire queen. And was like, yeah, there's a bunch of assassins coming after me, but I don't really care that I keep getting hit because I'm a vampire and I'm not really gonna like die from serious injuries, and so it doesn't really matter. And I'm thinking to myself, well,
God modding.
okay. Yeah, God modding, and okay, while that does kind of make sense because vampires do essentially,
It still
don't
hurts.
get seriously. It's right. It still hurts. You know, have your vampire be a little more emotional. Have it sort of care that it keeps getting hurt. Have it care that it keeps getting involved in these sort of things, and make it sort of involved with the people around that character, because I'm sure the people around the character are like, oh my god, you know, you're hurt. You know,
Mm-hmm. It's
we care about you. All that
drama
kind of stuff.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And my character in this scenario was, I suppose, a bodyguard of sorts, because as most of my roleplay experiences go, I just kind of try to assert myself nicely, and then I end up getting these sort of roles that don't really fit my character, but I kind of feel a little bad to just be like, hey, you know, I appreciate your involvement with my character, but this is not really what I'm comfortable with, because it's kind of hard finding people to roleplay with sometimes.
Yeah.
So apparently, you know, but I would meet her every quote unquote day, and she'd have this new injury, and I'm all like, you know, in character, like, oh, you know, you need to be a little more careful about this and about that. Why don't you do this? Like, I kept suggesting things that she could do to get herself out of this predicament that she keeps putting herself in. And it kept seeping into real life emotion. You know, nothing romantic, but almost to the point of, like, you know, okay, your character's being harassed. You're being sort of pushed in a direction that's not really appreciated either in character or out of character for most people. And so emotionally, this is pushing my buttons, and I'm trying to icily get her to agree to kind of step back, but she just wouldn't have any of it.
Yeah, just wouldn't.
Because she's like, I'm a vampire. I'm
Yeah,
like a
and
god. I'm blah, 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 blah.
and you can't do that stuff because, you know, and that could be a problem. We've had that before where because you have to have permission from people to ever die or things like that, people basically unintentionally they start god modding because, well, I can't really be killed, so I'll just be reckless and stupid. But
I rolled in that 20. You have to die.
There's a point where after so much of doing that stuff, you're just like, well, it's not really fun role playing with you because, one, there's no consequences to it, and two, you're just rushing in like a moron. So you know, just because you're a vampire and you can heal quickly, like Insomniac said, vampires can still be killed. They're not immortal. There's actually entire movie series based around killing vampires. So I don't know if
Right.
they're aware of that, but that is an actual thing. So,
Yeah.
but
And I advise watching that one over the sparkly, glittery version.
that would probably be a good idea. Where they're, what they don't say in that is that they're very altruistic. That they only eat animals. What they don't tell you is they're also going to the local petting zoos and PetSmarts, and taking the puppies and the kitties, and that's what they eat. So now, what do you think of Twilight? Not so cuddly anymore, are they? That's right.
No, Fluffy!
But,
one of the things that we had to do was people like that who didn't want consequences, and we dealt with them because they're like, well, this is how my character is written, da 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 da. And I had to explain to them that all actions have consequences. So if you refuse consequences, and obviously I'm not going to make you kill your team, but
right.
the deal is this: you violate Vaca to the point of her trust enough, she will have you killed, and has. So if that's not your deal, you need to either, one, find a way to make this work and have your character actually get along with the rules, or two, go away.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie,
Choose.
the only thing I heard was violating Vaca, and I was like, what thoughts?
The
Shameful.
sexy background softcore porn music, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, wow.
And I rarely met people who were willing to kill their characters. They're
Right.
always
It's pretty.
kinda
It's
fun.
pretty rare. I mean, I did it at the end, but that was at the very end, and even then,
Yeah,
it
but
was
he
like
died. He wasn't
Yeah.
killed.
even
You
yeah,
have a
that's
rash
true.
of those folks that don't want consequences.
And that's another thing that people seem to rush is deaths for their characters.
Yeah. It's usually
I've
made
not-
at a very rash decision when you probably should give it a couple hours, 24 hours or so to be like,
Right.
not do that.
Right.
Or you find yourself saying, can I bring my character back from the dead? No, you really
Right.
can't. You should have been more aware of what you were doing.
And again, form of God moding.
Yeah.
But I've never been part of like a death scenario or anything because I personally don't like permadeath. I
Yeah.
kind of just
See,
if I want to keep a character, I usually stretch it out and then eventually turn it into an undead because I'm a fan of undeads, obviously based off of my icon. But that way, I can sort of say, okay, the character technically died, but he's still around, so I can sort of just keep that within the realm of fantasy
bringing
realism.
them back. Yeah.
You know, but I've been witnessed or have witnessed some scenarios where, let's say, somebody was in a relationship ideally with someone and they broke up. The emotion of that drove them nuts, both Iceli and Ooceli, so much to the point that they're like, oh, I'm just gonna kill my character off. He doesn't care about life anymore. It sucks. She was my world. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And then jumps off a bridge. He dies, and then
they regret it.
they regret it, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm sorry. I'll bring him back." It's like, dude,
Resurrect me. Yeah.
the lesson is that RP stuff like this is exactly like how some real life scenarios go.
Yeah. Exactly. And I don't.
Minus the jumping off the bridge thing.
Well, I mean, just depends on if you're
At
Paul.
least-
It depends if you're Paul Logan or not. I mean, in
Sure.
your filming, and you happen to be in a forest in Japan.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't do that. He did.
Okay. Change
I don't want to. I don't want to cut
Let's
you short,
back to
Smiling,
the-
but we keep having
Sure.
you've got that same problem with your mic, and it's very very
Yeah.
loud. Again, I don't know what caused that, but it keeps
Um,
keeps kind of fizzling out. So, but
Loud.
No
I
worries.
do
Yeah.
We'll be upgrading next month, so that
Awesome.
problem should go away.
awesome. Well, I appreciate you
Yay.
calling in, man, and thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye, Smiling.
Yeah. I know I love the guy, but it about gave me a heart attack every time it would shake like that. So
Yeah, it was a buzz in my. It always made me jump.
yeah, it made me too. But no, he had some good points, and yeah, that's consequences are always a thing that you need to
And
work
I really don't think that I'm one of those. I'm like Rengots, or not Rengots. Sorry,
on.
Anthony
Straffe.
Straffe. That
I got
don't
all night,
think
all
you
kinds
should-
of names tonight.
She just did my grandma when she would try to get on to me. She'd be like, Matt, Paul. She'd go through every male in the
Leroy,
house before
Carl.
she'd eventually get to me. Yeah.
You. Yeah.
What is your
And
name?
then she'd be
don't
like,
lie
"You
to
know
me,
who I
I'll
mean."
figure it out. Yeah, I always had people do that where they wanted to say, well, let's just say it's been 6 months and he gets out tomorrow. No. Now, we did that for a couple people and it was fine. But some people were doing it
The
just so they could get out of the... Yeah, they were getting out of it in order to not have to spend... Well, it's not any fun for my character. Well, it's not any fun for my character to have you mouthing off in front of the whole meeting. So...
Right, to constantly be pushing buttons and knowing that this is what we have to... what our responses have to be in character, and then...
Right, because I had no choice. I
using
rolled
time
and I had
dilation
to
sneak out of it, basically.
Right, because they didn't want the consequence of prison time or...
They're willing to do it for a couple hours or an hour or as they're logged off, but the next day they want, weeks.
Can we just say this is over? We had one chick that had to, like, crawl on the floor and mop the floor and naked. That was her punishment. Baka wasn't very nice. And she had to do that for about a week, but she didn't log in for a week.
Yeah.
And when she logged in, she was like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Because this wasn't like her first time.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I don't think you understand that consequences are real. So we're going to say that you're going to have to at least do a couple of days of this when you're in game.
Yeah. To
role play it out. It's not hard. You don't have to
humble the character. Right.
Put a sexy costume on and pretend you're naked and we'll all be happy. But you're going to have to play this out.
Or or if it's an EQ2, those washed up rags. That
those
everybody
full
loves.
Body dress that everybody had to wear.
Or the dirty redneck pajama pants that the men wore.
Yes.
I honestly don't know who had it worse.
Yeah, both was pretty bad.
But
I had a pair of those. They were great.
Looked good on Gormal. He was really
really
rocking
like
it. Yeah, it worked for him. So the other one, why is choosing a format of time dilation for RP partners and RP friends with, larger RP circles important for a community? Pretty obvious. Consistency.
Because if everybody agrees, at least in some sense of what is going to happen.
Marginally, yeah.
Yeah. Like when our guild on Lucan moved to Bale, and we did that jump because there wasn't enough role players.
Right, which eventually they ended up consolidating anyway.
Right. So we moved the guild, but then we said it had been 50 years. It was a vampire guild, so it made sense to make that jump. And so we were all able to everybody had a choice if they wanted to come, and if they didn't, their characters died. And if they did move, then they were 50 years older. And it was something we all voted on. It took about 2 weeks to decide, and then we did it. And it was smooth, and it was
and see
it was fun.
Yeah,
but we all agreed, and we all talked about: did we want to just say it was instantaneous? Do we want to give it a little time dilation? What do we want? And that's what we agreed on. And I think it's really important to do that.
And that's a special case too, because how often does literally jumping roleplay servers happen?
Right.
It's not something that happens often, but
nowadays it doesn't happen at all because
there's no such thing.
Right. But back then it was a big deal, and I really think that, and I've had other guilds that I know of, like where they reform and they agree that it's been a certain amount of time, and they post on the roleplay forum that it's been this long for them, and if they would appreciate it if everybody would just say that was 5 years ago. Any RP that they had with guild members. And I've never seen that go badly. I've never seen people say, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, we appreciate the heads up. Thanks, we'll do that. Because it's 5 years, who cares?
Yeah.
Just stretch it out a little bit. It's fine. So that was fine. And I think that when communities talk about it, it is healthy. Be good for RP.
Yeah, and of course there's never, that's unfortunately one thing with RP communities, that there's never ever a consensus.
Well, no, you're not going to please everybody, but you're going to at least...
Which is why if the games did it themselves on a decent ratio, you could kind of do a little better, but, there's always still those outliers. But most people, I've noticed in ESO, I don't seem to have run into this problem near as much as I did in EQ2, for example, or... Even Final Fantasy 14, I don't seem to recall, even though it had such a sped up cycle too. I never ran into anyone, given I was only there for, less than a year, but still, I never really ran into anybody that was constantly doing that. But that's not to say they don't exist. It's just to say that I didn't run into them.
Yeah.
Most people seem to do the 1-to-1 ratio in Final Fantasy 14, that based off of that grindstone PvP thing that was massive, that had 70 or 80 people participating in every week. And I think still goes on, but they in character, that was always like a week apart as far as I remember. So
Yeah.
and that seemed to be the general consensus of it, was kind of on a 1-to-1 ratio, but when your game is sped up so fast, you almost have to.
It necessitates some kind of understanding between role players, at least, how much time is actually passing.
Yeah. And of course, between your partners and friends, or say a guild, it's definitely a lot easier to do that stuff. Like with, I'll use Kishmas and Nathala, when they had their kid, how he spoke about, I think it was 2 or 3 months that she carried the kid to term in real life. And that's how, and so the time passed faster in character, but they both were like, yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Everyone went along with it, but they agreed on that. And, and now I think now that, now that the kid's out, I think they've said that she's passing on more of a 1-to-1 ratio, because they're in no hurry. They're not in any hurry to have her grow up and be, fighting or playing her. So I think she's like all of 1, maybe 1.5. I don't remember how old the kid was, but and that makes sense because they're not in any hurry, as opposed to some of the ones that they seem to do that in the want of playing the character, and that needs them to speed that up. But I've just never been a fan of that's me personally. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of baby role play to start with.
I was going to say, you're not a fan of baby role.
But speeding it up like that makes it, I think the speed of which that stuff happens is part of why I've always been so against it, because it is, I mean, not to, my immersion, but it is so immersion breaking when, these kids might, as far as my character is concerned, time's passing relatively normal, maybe a little sped up, but they're at like 2 times the speed of light.
I know. It's ridiculous.
This is
why. And also I've noticed that, I'm sorry, Striffy, go ahead.
No, you're good. This is why when Ren had his kid and the freaking wife in question abandoned him to Tort, I literally raised him, and he was a freaking infant and a burden on Ren for literally months. And I did it. I was like, hey, man, this is kind of cool. This makes Ren be really careful, and it makes the character grow in different ways. And so that's why I played it out the whole way.
Yeah, and if you didn't do that...
Otherwise, you're a cop-out, right?
Yeah, you just totally skip by it. You'd be like, he's with a nanny. Which, I mean, I guess for Dark Elves that would work, but still, it's also not as fun. How much role play and growth did you get out of your character by, lugging an infant around, your fucking Cable.
Jazz loved it. She was like, "Oh, do you have
I
Liz
did.
today?" And Ren's like, "Yes, do not touch him."
Don't
He'd be
touch my
sitting there
baby.
all cute behind all his little armor. He had this little armor suit on. And it was so adorable.
Sucking on his little pacifier sword.
Yep.
So how... I'll go ahead and hit this up before we start wrapping things up, because I actually forgot to get to our one story, which I do want to get to because I think it's cute. How do you when somebody is going either... Typically, I'm just going to say too fast, because I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's like, every one day in real life is only a quarter of a day in the game. Very few people go backwards. It's always sped up, as far as I know. So when you have, like we'll go back to your story, Jazz, because that's the most extreme. I think that's the most extreme example I've ever heard of, with the 1 month goes by and it was a 15-year-old as opposed to I don't know, a 1 month old, or even a 1 year old. Even that would have been at least marginally passable. How is it that you confront someone and say, like, listen, I appreciate that that's your role play, but for 15 years to have gone by, my guild hasn't progressed 15 years in a month, and neither has my character, neither has anyone else, and I certainly can't, backpedal and say that you delivered it 15 years ago because, like you said, she's an assassin. She wasn't even.
Exactly
she wasn't even
I
a
was
midwife
nice about
then.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get upset about it.
No,
We
no.
didn't fight.
But-
I just explained, dude, we're going to have to retcon this. I'm not, and I said, this is your RP, and I understand that, and that's fine. Because I asked her why, and it wasn't this is what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's fine. But then Vaca did not deliver this child because, 15 years ago,
Right.
she was killing people
We
for a living,
can't have-
not delivering babies.
We can't have jumped forward, and you personally can't have jumped backwards.
Right.
So
'cause I ran a guild,
there was
and
no
it
in between.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only
So that's all I did. And I was nice about it. I
Right.
wasn't, and I had the same problem in, like I said, where they had twins and suddenly they were grown. And I was like, then my character did not deliver them because she's only 17 now. So
Yeah.
we can't have had 10 years pass because then she delivered the babies when she was 5.
Yeah. And
That's not gonna
I like
happen.
what Alice said. The worst she saw was in SWTOR. I say she. I don't know if you're a he or she. I'm just going off of your name because Alice is kind of a girl name. A guildmate had a child, and 2 days later, the child was a Sith. You kind of ignore that particular RP. Yeah, that is that is talk about being strong in the Force when your 2-day-old is already reached the level of Sith. That is a child to be reckoned with. Yes,
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'd try not to assume, just not because of that politically correct, don't assume your pronouns bullshit, just because it's really hard to tell on Discord. But, Alice is kind of a girl name. I don't know a lot of dudes named Alice, so I'm going to go with she. That works for me. But yeah, that kind of just particular thing.
I'd also like to say
a 2-day-old Sith is fun.
I'd also like to say that people that do the Insta-Kid like
Alice
that,
Cooper doesn't count. He's a god, not a man.
people who do the Insta-Kid thing also tend to be red flags anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. That would
I've
definitely.
noticed that. I don't think I would have drawn that conclusion 10 years ago, but now that I've been doing this for as long as I have, I've truly noticed that the people who want that, bing, it's a kid, bing, I'm married, bing, I'm pregnant, bing, I'm not pregnant, bing, it's 15, that thing that they're doing
is definitely a red flag.
It's a red flag because it also means they're not going to do this. And I have yet to be proven wrong on that.
Say that
assumption.
you cut out there. Say they're not going to do what?
They are not going to accept consequences.
Consequences,
For their
okay.
character.
Of course not. That same
Well,
player in
to
question
me-
had like 15 million babies by 15 million dudes in EQ2. Just
Darn
saying.
welfare queens in game. Just trying to
Because
get out of Luke Candelier's pockets.
I don't have a lot
Anyway.
to do with this type of topic because I'm, I don't know. I've just not had a lot of experience with it. But I will say that to me, it's funner to be able to go through the role play than to just instantly achieve
I
something.
agree.
To teleport ahead and skip over the
Yeah.
fun stuff. Yeah. As we
I-
saw in that documentary with Adam Sandler, where he had the remote control that let him skip over his life, it doesn't end well.
Because we need to experience those things to grow as people. And I think that, like Vaca did not raise her children. Toyana raised her children because Vaca was a bad person and knew she was a bad person. And so she had somebody else raise her kids so they were not bad people. Well, I guess she failed with the lambshin, but she tried.
Yeah.
But, I still had them grow up even though it was faster and they were off planet while that was happening so that time passed faster. I had a reason for doing that.
At
It
least
wasn't
you
just
came
what
up
I
with
did.
a logical reason. In EQ2
Yeah.
lore, it actually there are instances of that kind of magic in time with the void and,
Yes.
and all that stuff. So that was plausible. Other games like ESO,
Not so
you're not
much.
doing that,
No, you couldn't do that. You couldn't get away with that because they're supported. So
Yeah. But no, Sib, yeah, and that's actually, what you say is completely right. If you're just constantly jumping over stuff and skipping ahead or time and things so fast. You really do. You'll skip out on so much character development, which is, I mean, if you're, it's kind of like reading a book or when you play a video game that's story driven and you're just jumping ahead to, all the fun parts. Well, you have to have the development and the character interaction parts between there, and you can't just, or jumping on a YouTube video to watch the very ending before you've even played the game. Well, jumping to the end isn't any fun. You gotta, go along the path and see the forest for the trees, I guess,
You need the meat and potatoes before you get to the epic end.
So, no, that's very, very, very true. And that's why I've never, I mean, I understand speeding up some things, like we said, like birth, like healing, but like the day-to-day aspects of your character, when my characters aren't logged in, they're still in the game. I just assume they're doing, they're on the boring patrol, like for Tarvala. She's on patrol probably with her unit or something like that. It's just that nothing happens, which is what happens, 99% of the time. But when I'm there and bad things go wrong, well, that's the exciting 1%. But most of the time, she's just trudging along, or she's exercising or training. It's the boring slog of some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, Jazz with your character, she's fucking filling out paperwork, or, just
exactly.
Just the boring shit that would be not fun to sit there and role play out for 8 hours of the day.
Which I know some people have their character just time, which I understand. But for me, I have my character doing things in life when I'm not in game.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Cooking,
follow
cleaning.
a timeline now. Cooking, cleaning, doing paperwork.
Pooping.
Going and work. No.
Hey, are you saying that she has no butthole?
Oh, dear God.
I'm just saying. They got to poop sometimes.
I'm so sorry, Sid. I really am. There are days. Anyway.
There really are days.
I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
That she's working on contracts, and because she's got to get contracts for all these people in her guild. That takes time. So it makes sense when I'm not
paperwork,
playing.
meeting the shady people where nothing goes wrong.
Right.
Like, okay, I got to get this contract from this, and this. Nothing goes wrong. It goes perfectly smoothly.
Right.
So
that you can play the stuff when there's problems, but I don't do
the shit
when,
stuff.
Yeah. Everyday stuff that everybody has to go through, the mundane stuff that might be boring to role play out. I have that happen off screen, but she's still growing and she's doing those things.
Yeah.
And that does take time. And so I don't mind dragging it out a little bit because I want my character to expand and grow.
Yeah.
Right. And even though Strayface's character doesn't play with mine very much, we've discussed what's going to happen.
Phrasing.
Sorry. Gosh,
oh, I did it, didn't I? Okay, that was my fault. Anyway. Sigh. We've agreed that sometimes we have to sit down and discuss what has happened. If they've had fights,
you and I did that.
If something, you and I did that because we couldn't all play together. So it was important. Shut up.
Right.
Did it again. It's important to have those conversations as couples, even if you don't always have the time to play in the game together. How's that?
Yeah.
That you discuss, well, today, it's been a week since we played together, but we're going to say that they went on a camping trip over the weekend and they did this.
Or their morning ritual is, they get up and have coffee and tea, and they make small talk over what their plans are for the day, and just little, stuff that you would do in real life that every now and then you might play out as the actual characters if you've got free time, but for the most part, you just assume that it's a thing that happens, which,
exactly
is what it's just one of those, most people, I don't know if everybody, I can't say most people don't think about it. I do wonder how many people do, though. I know long-term role players probably do. I assume quite a few.
I've seen a lot of people who roleplay that if it doesn't happen, like if their character isn't having ERP when they are in game together, it is not happening. And they will roleplay that they have not seen X, Y, and Z for weeks.
So if they haven't typed it out, then they're on a dry spell.
Then it didn't happen. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that.
What did you just say? If they haven't had what?
ERP. Like,
ERP.
so
they have
Okay. That's what I thought you said. I was like, Okay, maybe I just heard that wrong. I thought
No,
you were
you,
saying...
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are like that if they haven't ERP'd
If
in
they-
game, they have not had relations as a
Yeah,
couple.
it doesn't. Yeah, it's not a fade to black or just an assumed like they're still doing it off screen,
Right,
even
and
though. Yeah,
I can't have relations. I can't have a
I
relationship.
did not have sexual relations.
I can't have a relationship with someone in game between characters of mine because I run a guild and all this other stuff. If they're going to be like that, I can't do it.
You just can't
because
do it. Yeah.
no, and that's why it was perfect for Strafe and I, because we don't put that kind of pressure on each other
Mhm.
to have to perform, quote unquote, in order to have it happen. He and I have this long conversation on a regular basis about what our characters are doing
They
off
have
screen.
pills for that now.
And a very long, sordid RP history to boot.
Yeah,
exactly.
you know, so we know what it's, and I had the same problem. I had the same relationship with a character of mine by the name of Sarish in EQ. I did not RP with her icy husband because he worked nights and I worked days, and we didn't see each other ever, almost ever. And when he was in game, he wasn't hardly RPing anymore. So he would just decorate, and we would talk and say, well, they did this or they did that. And we would all, but they were happily married and they had a kid, and we just, a lot of it was off screen, and I don't have a problem with that, and I don't understand people that don't, because if it doesn't happen on screen, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. These people have lives away from when I'm actually playing them. That's how I think.
Yeah, they're still there. We're not there 24 hours a day, but they are.
Right, they're living their life regardless.
Yeah, so and that's, but, so in the end, really, I mean, like I said, for me personally, I think the best way is I just kind of, I've always go along to get along. You fudge it, you smudge it, and things like that. It's really, I think a lot of people do that. The only time it becomes a serious problem is with the 15-year jumps, or the very rare people that would say do 72 minutes a day, and you go through a week of time period in 8.5 hours. For the most part, it doesn't come up too often, but it still does come up every now and then, and it can be a pretty big point of contention. Like I said, even with Jazz and her 1 to 4 ratio with how time has passed, even I never really played along too much with that, but the way her and I always got around that was we didn't talk about it. When we would say, we would just, it was vague, like Yudvay was saying, it's vague and ambiguous. You just kind of have to go with the flow of it. You need to be elastic with that. You need to have plasticity.
Flexible. You have to be flexible. You have to appreciate. I knew that you didn't do one.
You give and take a little bit, and
we just kind of understood this, and we didn't argue about it. If there was a situation where it was necessary for us to say more time had passed, we talked about it and we'd agree on how much time.
Yeah.
And it never was really a problem.
Yeah, and I would win and she would be always wrong. So that's just the way it went. Actually,
you're not wrong. A lot of times that was.
Yeah, well, and honestly, it was, at least between you and me, it was usually so little of a. I honestly don't even remember. I don't even remember the instances in which we had those conversations, other than the fact that I remember having them, just not any particulars.
I think the only time we had a really long.
Did we lose Jazz?
Did we lose Jazz?
Oh, there you are.
God,
There she is.
You had
where
hiccups.
did you stop hearing me?
The only time we ever had a.
Oh, the only time I think we ever had a discussion about it was when you came back to game and I was telling you how much time I had RP'd and had been.
And with that, I was fine because I was dead. So what did it matter to me?
Yeah. But we still had that discussion because I wanted to make
just
sure
to make
that
sure
you
that
understood.
everything was cool.
Right. That if that was not okay, then I would have to adjust the story somewhat, but I needed to know.
Yeah, no, and it was just as simple as that, and really I had been gone for years in the game, and I forget. I know when I came back, like there were multiple, childbirths and things like that had happened, but I was gone for quite some time. So I was just like, it really didn't matter to me anymore at that point.
I think the funnest part was when he got to meet Alamshin after all that time and she changed much and grown up so much he was stunned. That was fun.
Yeah, that was.
She wasn't a snotty little mouthy bitch anymore. She was actually a nice.
No, she was just snotty.
Yeah, just her normal stuck-up self.
Yeah, so I think that about covers that, because I want to start wrapping it up, and I want to get to this one little article real quick that I got off of Massively OP. I meant to do this sooner, The reason why is because I thought it was adorable, and it's shows a lot of how these online games really affect us. I mean, we're as role players, I actually think it almost affects us sometimes even more than the people that just play the games like these two did. That was a couple on the EVE Online community. They recently have their was it EVE Fan Fest of 2018. Over the game's almost 15-year lifetime, perhaps the most bizarre thing that has come out of it is Space Pope Max Singularity. The character of a Space Pope actually in EVE started out as a joke amongst the players. I think probably from Futurama is the Space Pope reptilian? Which the answer is yes, the Space Pope is actually reptilian. However, this Space Pope was a joke among players who discovered was Max, the guy Max Singularity was always doling out words of worldly wisdom in the in-game chat channels, and just being a really cool guy, counseling people that were going through rough times. So, in the culture of online games, his kindness was kind of embraced, and he actually started a new in-game religion in EVE around the religious leader of the Amar Empire, which I'm not too familiar with EVE, but I know that's one of the empires in there. The cool story about this, though, is the guy that plays Max, he's actually a NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratories employee named Charles White in real life. So he plays EVE, and he's a NASA guy. Not a big surprise there.
That's awesome.
But during the EVE Fan Fest this last week, he was in full papal guard with an entourage of space monks and space nuns. And if you've never seen or if you've never heard of a space pope, well, I promise I'm not making it up. They had it at the Fan Fest, and he married two players, Terion Usaro and Irma Amatine. They were married by him in the traditional Amarian ceremony in front of hundreds of onlookers. There's actually, if you go to massivelyoverpowered.com and look up for the EVE Fan Fest 2018, you can actually see a video of that. He is dressed like a full-on pope. They're all wearing like the EVE inspired clothing and things like that. They even the dude even has like a weird little headgear helmet, like a neural interface thing. I just thought that was super cool. It just goes to show,
really neat.
And these guys were just, understand EVE is basically a second job.
Yes, it is.
It is a game I would absolutely love to get into. I tried, but I do not have that kind of time and effort. So God bless those people for the devotion they have.
That's a whole different game to try to get into, man. I've tried
that
as well.
is
And you do
literally
make
a
real
living
life
world.
money, so
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I mean, if you do play it as a second job, I recommend pay because holy cow.
Yeah, and it is
No
when
thanks.
MMOs are like, we're trying to create a living, breathing world. No one has done that the way EVE has. When
Nope.
two space armadas can fight and lose tens of thousands of dollars in ships over the trade disputes and things like that, and the company's like, yep, we'll allow it, or some guild bank, somebody goes corrupt and actually steals like
I read about
$30,000 worth of in-game currency. Yep,
That's
we'll allow
crazy.
it.
It was millions, I
What
thought.
happens? I think it was millions in game, but it was 30K outside of the real world is still
I
a
see.
chunk of change.
Yeah.
But when a development team lets everything, what happens in game and who you trust happens in game, and that's on you. God, I love that. I love that mentality in a lot of ways. I would love in roleplay that if we could, when trolls came around, that if there was something we could actually physically do to stop them or shut them down, that would be awesome. Because
I just want to be able to make them invisible. That would make me happy.
that would go with that, but I would also completely go with the fact that, they could just be like, boop. If they get enough complaints on it, they become attackable and they're instantly killed on the spot. That'd be good
Ooh,
to
I like
see.
that one too.
Would be nice.
But so I wanted to share that. It's not. They may. I don't even know. They could be role players. I don't know. I just thought the fact that those two people found love and they got married in the traditions of a game and were married by a guy from NASA who is apparently a really cool guy. Anybody that spends time online helping talk people down off the roof or through hard situations in real life, that's a
That's
rare
pretty
that's a
awesome.
rare commodity. you know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you gotta hold those people up and give them a little praise, give you guys a little bit of hope. I know sometimes we can be a little negative on stuff, but
We
that's because
can.
the
We're all
world is
cynical.
awful. The world is terrible, and we're all gonna die one day. But in between
Oh, I'm
that,
not
these
as
people got
negative as
married. It
you.
was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. It's not so bad. It really isn't. As dark as things can sometimes seem, there's a lot of hope out there for humanity. Unfortunately, you just never hear about it on the news, Facebook, or anything where you actually listen to anything at all. Because if it bleeds, it leads, as they say. So with that, anybody have any last thoughts on time dilation before we kick this pig and get out of here? Actually, try to get
I
out on
think we
time
covered
this
everything
time.
for me.
I got nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's kick on the outro music. Intro music. I don't want to do this for another 2 hours. It's been. I think we've covered it as well. So again, appreciate everybody listening in.
Night,
at
guys.
twitch.tv/RPMMORadio.
Night, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Just go ahead. You can all join us again. Our RPMMORadio.com/Discord. Join our Discord server. We'd love to have you. If you want to become a Patreon subscriber, support the show. We appreciate everybody. Patreon.com/RPMMORadio. If you aren't following us on Twitch, go ahead and hit the like button. Or if you've got an Amazon Prime, you can go ahead and subscribe to us too. We would appreciate that. Every little bit helps and keeps the show going and sounding as good as we can possibly make it with the monkey at the helm that runs this entire thing. So thank you, everybody, for listening. All of our podcast listeners out there, you guys rock too. Appreciate you. And tune in next time when we'll discuss why halflings aren't short, but rather frozen in time. Next time on RPMMO Radio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of RPMMO Radio and her crew are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great video game rock covers and original music.